Pledge of Allegiance.
I would. Please stand if you're able.
All right, Councilmember Harris, would you read our mission statement?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The mission of the City of Flagstaff is to protect and enhance the quality of life for all.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor Aslan?
The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place is home.
Thank you. All right, next up is item number 4, open call to the public. This enables the public to address the council about an item that is not on the prepared agenda. If you have comments relating to an agenda item, please make them at the time that the agenda item is discussed. Open call to the public appears on the agenda twice, right now and at the end. And during an open call to the public, the city council will not ask you questions or answer questions, but may direct staff to follow up with you if necessary. And Stacy, I believe you were planning on reading out any names for open call to the public?
Yes, Mayor. We have one, Dennis Givens.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, staff, citizens, thanks for letting me do this. I just went around my neighborhood, the South Side, to talk about, or just to talk to the neighbors and see what they were most concerned about. And these were the things that I noticed that they were saying a lot. A lot of people are complaining about the sidewalks. A lot of people are tripping over them, or the people with barriers are not able to, move freely. So they really want the city to pay attention to how the sidewalks are and maybe make them smoother. A lot of people in the South Side are concerned about residential parking. They notice a lot of people are parking in their spots or in front of their houses that are going to the businesses down on the South Side. I talked to someone over here on Birch, and they said that the city used to re-gravel their alleyways, and now they don't do it anymore, and so it's really hard to get down their alleyways. People on the South Side are also worried about people speeding. A lot of students go through there, and instead of two-way stops, they want to know if they could have four-way stop signs, maybe to slow down speeders. And a lot of people complain about the noise. I don't know if there's like a noise ordinance, but they would really love one just so they could really have peace and quiet on the South Side. And another person was saying how the South Side floods because one of the culverts is always blocked with debris. So she would really love it if they emptied it out. And I told her I think they're working on it. And another person said that next year when the city council gets a raise, that they should donate 10% of their wages back to the city so that we could afford robots and cancer research or suicide prevention and jujitsu for police officers. And the last thing that they said was fiscal responsibility. They really want you guys to be financially sound. And when people are making a bid, make sure that it's the best bid that is great for everyone and not just giving all the bids to a certain group of people. That's what they were saying. And everyone's doing a good job. Thanks for letting me come up here today and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
All right.
Sorry, Mayor. I just wanted to let you know that was the last public commenter.
All right, thank you. So next up, we have 2 proclamations. The first is for Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. And I know we have the person who requested this proclamation online, I believe. And also Council Member Sweet would like to, thank you, Rachel Putman is online for the proclamation. And Councilmember Sweet would like to make a statement before the proclamation.
Tonight, we are observing Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month with a proclamation which holds great significance for me due to the recent loss of our community member, Trish Renzink. She lost her life to ovarian cancer just 5 days ago. As a mentor, business coach, wife to Kathleen, and a friend, Trish left an incredible mark on our lives, and tonight, I would like to honor her legacy by dedicating this proclamation to her. This tribute is for everyone who loved Trish and for all women affected by ovarian cancer.
Thank you, Councilmember. So I'll read the city's proclamation for Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas ovarian cancer is the 5th leading cause of death among women, and the American Cancer Society estimates each year approximately 19,680 women will be diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2024, and 12,740 individuals will die from the disease nationwide, including 460 new cases and 310 deaths in Arizona. And whereas in the United States, a woman's lifetime risk of being diagnosed with ovarian cancer is about 1 in 87. And whereas due to vague symptoms and the lack of reliable early detection tests, most women are not diagnosed until stage 3 or later, when the cancer has already begun to spread to the lymph nodes and outside the pelvis. And whereas, although the 5-year survival rate for stage 1 ovarian cancer is over 90%, only 15% of ovarian cancers are diagnosed at this early stage. And the 5-year survival rate for late-stage ovarian cancer is below 30%. And whereas, while a mammogram can detect breast cancer and a pap smear can detect cervical cancer, there is no reliable early detection test for ovarian cancer. And whereas women's lives can be saved through increased public awareness of ovarian cancer and its risk factors, signs, and symptoms. And whereas this month, the City of Flagstaff joins all those who are battling ovarian cancer, those who have lost their lives to the disease, their loved ones, and our state's many dedicated healthcare workers in spreading awareness, committing to public education, and embracing hope for better diagnoses, treatments, and a cure. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Mayor Becky Daggett of the City of Flagstaff, Arizona, do hereby proclaim September 2024 as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and I encourage all residents to observe Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month and support the cause that is so deeply impacts families in every community across our country. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've been told, okay, Stacy is saying that we have some technical difficulties with the online public comment system, but we are going to try and give Rachel an opportunity to speak if she would like to.
We are trying, Mayor. Just a moment.
Okay, let's try again. Rachel, can you try again? Okay. I'm gonna bring this.
All right, Mayor, unfortunately, I think we're going to be unable to get that audio feed into the system. We do apologize.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Putnam, I'm so grateful to you for bringing this forward and having us make this proclamation. And as you heard, it's very timely in our community. And Councilmember Sweet, I appreciate your words ahead of the proclamation. The next proclamation we have is for Hispanic Heritage Month, and I believe that Councilmember House is going to read this.
That's correct, Mayor. Thank you. And thank you to the Commission on Diversity Awareness for putting this proclamation forward. The City of Flagstaff observes, embraces, respects, and celebrates National Hispanic Heritage Month. Hispanic Heritage Month, also called Mes de Herencia Hispana, is celebrated nationwide from September 15th through October 15th each year to commemorate the history, culture, and contributions of the Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx peoples whose ancestors originated from the Caribbean, Central and South America, Mexico, and Spain. Hispanic Heritage Month began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week, which was first introduced by Congressman George E. Brown in June 1968 under President Lyndon B. Johnson, and was later extended to a 30-day celebration by President Ronald Reagan in 1988. And the City of Flagstaff understands the significance of celebrating the anniversaries of independence for Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Mexico, and Chile, and to highlight the rich heritage, arts, histories, food, music, and traditions of all 26+ Latin American nations, paying tribute to all for their contributions to our city, state, and nation. And the City of Flagstaff is committed to the theme of 2024's Hispanic Heritage Month, which is Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together. The City of Flagstaff recognizes the vital contributions of Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx communities in driving innovation, fostering unity, and building a more inclusive and vibrant future for all. And the Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx communities have been integral to the prosperity of Flagstaff as their contributions are immeasurable, representing the best of American values, leaving an enduring mark on our local culture and economy. Starting from the 1920s, these communities continue to be represented in Calaveras, Los Chantes, La Plaza Nueva, La Plaza Vieja, and many other areas of Flagstaff. And the City of Flagstaff understands that the Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx communities are particularly entrepreneurial and play a vital role in our economy and workforce, and have also contributed to Flagstaff's growth. These communities are also represented in city and county leadership, services and education, business, medicine, social services, military service, and veterans organizations, and visible through nonprofit organizations such as Ballet Folclórico de Colores and Nuestras Raíces. And the City of Flagstaff Commission on Diversity Awareness recommends the designation of September 15th, 2024 through October 15, 2024 as Hispanic Heritage Month in unison with national and statewide observances. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Becky Daggett, Mayor of the City of Flagstaff, do hereby proclaim September 15, 2024 through October 15, 2024 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Flagstaff, honoring the history, heritage, and contributions of Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx Americans with festivals, educational activities, and other local and statewide observances.
Thank you. Do we have anyone from the Disability Awareness Commission? From the Diversity Awareness Commission who is there and would like to speak?
Mayor, we don't have anyone in attendance.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Matthews and Councilmember House. So moving down to item number 7, September work anniversaries.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Joanne Keene, Deputy City Manager, and I'm here today covering for Shannon Anderson, who has a brand-new grandbaby. So her grandson, Crew, was born last night. She sent us a kind of a cryptic text this morning, which Greg responded, "Does this mean that the grandbaby was born?" And she said yes, and then sent us a beautiful photo, and mother, father, grandparents, and Crew, they're all doing well. So I just wanted to pass on that news. So I'm doing the September work anniversary presentation today. I'm going to start with celebrating those employees who are celebrating 1 year with the city of Flagstaff. You'll see we have a good variety from departments all across the city. Moving forward, I'd like to celebrate a 5-year anniversary, and I think I saw her in the room, Carmen. Carmen Pryor, who is our real estate specialist, is celebrating 5 years with the city of Flagstaff. Thank you, Carmen. You see Carmen quite a bit before council presenting. We also have Taylor Pritchard, who is in water services, also celebrating a 5-year anniversary today. Sure. Patrick Jenkins, who's a construction inspector, is celebrating 5 years. And Andrea Barantes is a library specialist, also celebrating 5 years with the city of Flagstaff. For 10 years, Judith Costello, who's a court interpreter, is celebrating 10 years. Lori Spencer in PD, who is a police crime analyst, is celebrating 10 years with the city. And Nate Nalaborski, who's our public works manager who oversees fleet, is celebrating 15 years with the city of Flagstaff. And I can guarantee he's much happier normally than he looks in this photo. Francita Begay, who is an admin specialist in PD, is celebrating 20 years with the city of Flagstaff. As is Justin Watson, who is a welder tech, celebrating 20 years. Now I'd like to recognize Paul Lazawicki, who is a deputy police chief with the city of Flagstaff. And I know he's here in the audience, and I'd like to give him an opportunity to make some comments, but I'd like to read his bio first. So Paul is originally from Michigan and majored in biology and art at Hope College. He published a few medical illustrations in medical journals before he joined the Navy as a hospital corpsman. Just a fascinating background. Following the Navy, Paul went back to school and earned his Master's of Forensic Science and joined the Naval Criminal Investigative Regional Forensic Laboratory. He worked as a senior forensic scientist in New Mexico before joining the Flagstaff Police Department in 1999. Paul served as a patrol officer, field training officer, corporal, detective, sergeant, and lieutenant prior to becoming a deputy police chief. During his time with the police department, he received his doctorate from University of Phoenix. I understand he had some money to use up on his GI Bill, from what I read, and has been teaching criminal justice courses. Paul has been recognized for his many accomplishments by a Life-Saving Award, Meritorious Service Award, City Manager's Fremont Award, WOW Award, and a Heart of Hope Humanitarian Award. Can we give a round of applause to Deputy Police Chief Lazawicki? Would you like to make some comments?
I'd just like to say thank you, and it's been my honor to serve the people of Flagstaff these past 25 years. Thanks.
So we have one more 25-year anniversary award today. Chris Thomas, who's a fire engineer paramedic. Unfortunately, he could not be here today, but I would like to read his bio and some history about his time with the city of Flagstaff. Chris was hired 25 years ago by the city of Flagstaff after serving what was then Doney Park Fire for a couple of years. Prior to that, he worked as a teacher in the Valley. He's a longtime engineer, paramedic, technical rescue tech, and hazardous materials technician. He also teaches various EMS courses at Coconino Community College, was an acting captain for many years, and has been involved in various ways to help move the organization forward. In his off time, he enjoys mountain biking, hiking, the outdoors, and spending time with his wife and his 2 daughters. And he could not be here today. I believe he's in training today, so continuing his education. So let's give a round of applause for Chris Thomas. With that, I would just like to say congratulations to all of our amazing employees and recognizing their time with the City of Flagstaff. With that,
Thank
we have a party.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations to you all, and congratulations to Shannon. That's excellent news. So we look forward to lots of pictures when you get back. All right, we're moving down to item 8, review of draft agenda for the September 17th, 2024 City Council meeting. Council, do you have any questions or comments? I do not hear any. And Stacy, do we have any public comment?
No, Mayor.
All right, so we will move down to item number 9, the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, greetings. We'll be a little bit brief in this report. It will be followed by some updates from various division directors or division members. We have 3 of them queued up for this afternoon. I believe that includes PROS, economic vitality. Stacy, what was the third one?
Water services.
Water services, thank you. And we look forward to those updates. In the report this time around, pretty brief, as I mentioned, and in no particular order, there was a recap of our conference at the Arizona League of Cities and Towns from August 27th through the 30th in Phoenix, well attended by members of this organization. And notably, and I mentioned it in the report, we had a few people presenting at that really good conference, including Kevin Finsel, Scott Overton, Sarah Darr, and of course, you, Mayor Daggett. Great panel discussions all around, and then a nice collaborative effort to do the Parade of Flags. Thank you for all who attended there and our mascots who joined us. It was a great event. One of the highlights, of course, was hearing from our governor during the luncheon on Thursday, and a number of, all the sessions were excellent, and it was just a really good and informative event. Thank you for everybody who participated. We're going back in time a bit here just to cover some things that occurred over the council recess. It seems like a long time ago, but back in July, we had a volunteer event hosted by our sustainability division, where a number of volunteers assembled in Coconino Estates to help remove sandbags. We hope to have many more of those as time marches on. Years ago, we were putting those sandbags in place. Now we have the distinct pleasure and hard work to back it up of removing the sandbags. So good for Coconino Estates. Thank you to the many volunteers who participated. Included a copy of a letter dated August 5th from the National Procurement Institute going to our wonderful procurement staff, just acknowledging their hard work and acknowledgement of receipt of the 2024 Achievement of Excellence in Procurement. So props to the procurement team for achieving that wonderful award. Some other odds and ends included a couple of photos from the employee picnic, which occurred in August and was well attended and very much appreciated. We had great events, a wiffle ball event, and some a director event, which is, I wish I could have partook in that in terms of dunking other people. I wouldn't want to sit on that bench, but we had a number of people who did, and this was all in a fundraising event. You know, I tried to include a GIF for you to show your deputy city manager, Joanne Keene, in action as she was dunking CJ, but not sure that it worked. It would be wonderful to see that GIF if it could be arranged. Stacy, what do you think?
I got you covered, Greg.
Oh, right on.
Was it gonna work?
There we go. Let's see it one more time. Oh, there you go. Let's see it a third time. Perfect. Yeah. It is a great arm, and props to CJ for taking the most dunks, 25 times. Way to go, CJ. Council, on August 22nd, also during your recess, and I apologize you did not know about this, but we'll make sure you're aware of all of these in the future, but we hosted or had our celebration of the High Country Academy graduation. This was class number 4. Seems like just a short time ago when we had our inaugural graduation out there. Now we're on to our 4th. This graduation class consisted of 14 graduates. It was really impressive. Good attendance at the CCC, the community college, which hosted, and a wonderful keynote speech by our police chief, Sean Connolly. Thank you, Chief, for your comments. Out of those 14 graduates, I understand that 4 are destined for our own police department. So, you know, this is just a wonderful thing. It benefits all of northern Arizona and the many jurisdictions and tribes. But here we are now also seeing 4 of the graduates come into our department, and we're grateful for that. Some other odds and ends, and then I called out one item for discussion. I might ask Ed Shank at his leisure to come on down, and we'll chat in a moment about the Mead Lane Stormwater Project, which I mentioned to council we would come back and give you an update on. While Ed's doing that, I will let you know that we continue to have discussions on John Wesley Powell. Expect an update in the weeks ahead. I also wanted to mention, and it's not referenced in the report, Councilmember McCarthy would be glad to hear me reference this, though we've been continuing to have ongoing dialogue upstairs about the noise issue in the south side, and I think we heard that referenced in public comment just this evening. We do plan on queuing that up for a work session in a couple of weeks before you at the dais, Council, and we will talk about a possible revision to our existing ordinance. This is not a new ordinance or something quite as comprehensive as what Council entertained a couple of years ago, but rather working with what we have and maybe giving it a little more clarity and a little bit more application. Mary Ann Sullivan with our police department and legal team has been working with others on that. We will walk you through the draft and talk about it and get council's temperature on how you would like to proceed. So expect that conversation in a couple of weeks. I think that's it for my report. I'm going to invite Ed to comment on Mead Lane. I'll cue it up and just set the background here. We heard from our residents out there. We know that this is an important project, that the flooding that has occurred out there is not a result of burn scar flooding. This is a little bit more localized and something that we think could be rectified within a relatively easy fix. Nothing's actually really easy, but compared to all the other stormwater projects we have going on, this one might be a little bit more in that category. I've asked Ed to prepare some talking points. I attempted to notify our 1 or 2 of our residents out there. I don't know if they're listening. If they are, we welcome them to hear what we have to say and share any comments they may have. But we did represent that we would bring this back to the dais and have a little more discussion of it and strategize. Once we cover this topic, then we'll go back to the monthly updates, as I mentioned. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Ed Shank, Stormwater Section Director. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, for having me today. I'll keep this relatively short and informal. Just a quick summary. The Mead Lane drainage issue that we're talking about was identified originally that I can find in 2019 with the Coconino Estates capital improvement project. So that was a drainage report completed as part of the streets project. And then this was confirmed in 2022 after the pipeline fire when we had the post-fire modeling. And it also showed that we had a sumped condition or a ponded condition on Mead Lane that is unrelated to the pipeline fire, but it was identified again. And then we have seen some flooding issues there through time, most recently this year, which is why we're talking about it today. The drainage on Mead Lane is severely undersized. It is two 12-inch pipes, one on the north side, one on the south side, that drains to the Rio de Flag. That's insufficient for even regular flows. We're talking probably in the range to 5 to 10 cubic feet per second, which is very, very small. Our proposed solution, we're at 60% designed right now, is a transitioning pipe. It's a pipe that starts as 48 inches near Highway 180, then other way around. 42 inches near Highway 180, and then transitions to 48 inches as it gets closer to the Rio de Flag. And that will also include new catch basins. Right now we're at 60% design, as I mentioned, so we have an engineer's opinion of probable cost, so it's essentially their estimate of what the project will cost. We see that as roughly $860,000 for the drainage improvement only. And then when we add in other utility improvements such as sewer and water, we think it's going to be in the range of about $1.2 million. That $863,000, we are expecting to get a FEMA hazard mitigation grant for that portion, which would be a 75-25 split, so 75% paid by the federal government and 25% coming out of the stormwater fund. The rest of that 1.2, so the other 400,000 or so, will be paid out of the aging infrastructure funds for both water and sewer. That hazard mitigation grant is moving forward rather quickly. It is coming out of a pot of money for a state disaster declaration. So it is state money or state allocated money that we do expect to get in the near future. Just some quick photos, maps of what we're talking about here. So this is Mead Lane, that's right in the middle here, that with all the colors. And these colors represent flood inundation for a 100-year event. So you can see the low point, which is near Talkington. So basically the water will come down Talkington, it hits this low point, and these residents are some of the residents you've heard from in the recent past. And then it kind of ponds here until it can move through the houses down towards Murray and Kutch, and then further down south from there. So the Rio de Flag is very close. It's about 1 block away. Unfortunately, we do have a natural levee that separates it from this low point. So the surface drainage does not go to the Rio de Flag. It does rely on an underground system of pipes. So our proposed solution, as I mentioned, is to start near Highway 180 and have new pipe all the way down the middle of the road until it hits the Rio de Flag, starting as a 42-inch pipe and then transitioning to a 48-inch pipe with new catch basins and 24-inch laterals at Lynn, Lynn's over here, Lynn as well as Talkington. So it is a rather robust system. We do expect to increase the capacity of the system from, like I said, about 5 CFS up to the 100-year flood, which is at 134 CFS. So it should be able to take a substantial amount of water before overtopping. Another example, just diagram here. So this is looking at that road profile. So this is Mead Lane. The proposed improvements would be that storm drain in the middle of the road, as well as proposed new sewer and a proposed new water line. And that's all I have. So just some real quick updates of where we are with that, and happy to take any quick questions before we move on.
Councilmember House.
Thank you, Ed, for the presentation. Can you just reiterate or restate the anticipated timeline for this project?
That's a hard one to cover because it is a FEMA grant, so that means that it's somewhat out of our control of when they provide that grant agreement to us. But we do hope to move with this rather quickly. Before that grant agreement, before that grant was submitted and was anticipated for award, this was not even on our 5-year CIP. It was on our long list of unfunded projects in the future. So by moving this through with a grant, we are moving it up considerably. We're leapfrogging to near the front. But we are hoping to move this as quickly as possible. And we have been pressuring both our state, so DEMA, as well as FEMA for hopeful for a rapid conclusion and a movement towards that grant.
Thank you.
Thank you. I might add to that. Thank you, Councilmember House, for the question. I'm sorry if I talked over somebody there. We'll treat it as the high priority that it deserves. I think we've heard reference to this being maybe 2 years out. There is a best case scenario that would see the funding come in sooner, and with the city being able to, work with a contractor, a CMR, to get the project going as early as next year. That is not a commitment. That would be the best case scenario. So I think 1 to 2 years is probably am I overreaching in saying that? 1 to 2 years is a time frame, and we will give it high priority. And if there's any opportunity to have this done over the next calendar year, we'll do so. Are you comfortable with me saying that?
Yeah, I mean, it's as close as it can be.
Okay.
So when the comments before of 2 years, that was me trying to be rather realistic and slightly pessimistic. So our hope all along has been to do it well within 2 years. It's not a complex project. There are some utility relocates, but it is a relatively, as you said, simple as far as drainage goes. Nothing simple in the drainage world, but it is relatively simple compared to some of the other capital projects that you know of that are going on right now.
Thank you. Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Mayor. Ed, just for education purposes, why start at 42 inches and then increase to 48? Why not just start at 48?
No, that's a great question. The reason why is partially cost. The bigger you go, the larger the trench you're going to need, the more disturbance you're going to have in the roadway. The pipes are marginally more expensive the bigger you get, but not much. And then it also has to do with slope. So if you have a pretty good slope on one section of the profile, you don't need as large of a pipe because you're going to have a faster velocity. So you can move the water faster, so you don't need that large of a pipe. So if we oversize, if we have really large, let's say 48 all the way through, there's a chance that we might have maintenance issues because if you have a drop in velocity halfway through, it'll start to collect sediment, and then we have to go in there and flush it. So there are reasons why some areas there's no good reason, that goes to big to small to big, but in this case, it does make sense to start relatively small. 42 is still very large, and then get that larger as we start to lose slope.
Thank you. And then my other question is, since we're taking advantage of this construction to put in a new water line, a new sewer line, will it be 100% FEMA funded, or will we share that expense?
So there will be shared expenses. So even within the drainage component, which we have estimated at $863,000, it is a 75-25% split. So 75 will come from FEMA. The 25 will come from our stormwater reserves, probably for next year, so next fiscal year. Still not certain of that, but that's that component. Now the other $400,000 of overage for sewer and water, because we are going to be replacing sewer and water through there at the same time, would come from that aging infrastructure fund for the separate utilities. So one from water and one from sewer to match that. Unfortunately, being a hazard mitigation grant, we can't cover the entirety of the utilities that are outside of the hazard.
Okay, and I just want to thank you for bringing this to us so quickly after our community, had some comments, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes, I was just going to say the same thing, but City Manager, so oftentimes it takes us a while to get to things, but I think that you and your staff heard the urgency from the residents. And so it's nice when they can feel, our residents feel that they're being heard. And so thank you all so much. I'm sure that you have no idea how important this is to the people on Mead Lane, because I have talked to them. And so this is amazing. So thank you so much. Thanks, Ed.
Councilmember Sweet.
Thank you, and thanks for bringing this to us. I'm wondering for outreach as we move along the process, what are you doing to make sure that the residents know the timeline and where we're at with it?
That's a great question. So we are hoping to have a flood update to council in, I believe it's November. I'm speaking out of hand. Sarah Langley probably have it better. We will include that in that flood update. So I'll have flood updates for both museum, pipeline fire, as well as some of these localized drainage issues that have come up they're not new, but have been expressed this year due to some of the flooding. So that will be one avenue. And then as that grant is awarded, there will be public outreach, both through a press release as well as probably something a little bit more focused for that community.
Thank you. I would love to see maybe a little more focus on the residents, making sure that they get the information. They're not all tuning in to our meetings. So if we can, that'd be great. Thank you.
Definitely, can do.
Thank you. City Manager, would you like to continue?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We'll move on to a couple of monthly reports. We are going to defer the Economic Vitality Report until next time. But this afternoon, we will hear from PROS. I believe Rebecca's going to give us that presentation, and then we'll hear from Water Services. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I feel like it's been so long since you've had to see me. But here we are, and here's our August newsletter, and we have some great things that happened for PROS over the summer and for this community. Absolutely super exciting is this brand new playground structure in Ponderosa Trails, and it is receiving a ton of use. So this is an exciting project because we work directly with the neighborhood association and the residents. We provided them with their pick of 3 different types of play structures to choose from. They picked this one. And then we also heard from them overwhelmingly that they wanted swings. Swings are difficult. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on this. You don't think that swings require that much space, right? Because they're pretty linear. But you have to, for safety, you have to manage the space for the fall zone, because we all did it, right? You swing and you swing and you swing and you get really high and then you jump off. And you can't hit anything else when you do that. So that's why swings are difficult, especially in these tight spaces, these tight neighborhood parks. But we were able to figure that out for them. That's what they wanted, and they wanted this. This is the first type of this kind of play structure that we have in our system. So we're super excited to work with this playground manufacturer and provide this to the community. I've heard from both kids and adults alike that this one is super fun. So head out and check it out, Ponderosa Trails Park. We also got a major project done at the Thorpe Multipurpose Field. This is a hugely loved and well-used field in our round. It's used by all kinds of our youth sports groups, mostly soccer. And so we worked directly with those user groups this summer to get them their early season programming, and then we worked with them to schedule them on other fields so that we could close this park and completely replace the sod in this location, and kept it closed successfully this time so that the sod could really take root. It looks amazing. It looks beautiful. This was all in partnership with these user groups. We couldn't have done it without their support and commitment. And now a field that was riddled with holes and ankle rollers and things like that is now a brand-new field, and you know, it's important that we be able to close some of these sections. Sometimes that's just what you have to do to maintain them. It's difficult for us to do that because we are limited on our field availability with the number of user groups that we have. So congratulations to the team for getting that done. At first glance, here's our trail counts for July. I was all excited at first because I thought we had a new winner, with Sinclair Trail being the highest number of users. However, if you combine the two Buffalo Park trails, which are the two at the beginning, they're still at 9,000 or so users and beat out Sinclair. But that's exciting to see the community getting out and about in our community. The Aquaplex was super busy over the summer. It was crazy. Just got to be honest with my office right there. But we did bring back, this is the first time since we've reopened post-pandemic that we brought back the summer day camps. So we tried a little bit of a new model. We tried it a couple of different ways, and by the end of the summer, we were at capacity with full registration, and the kids had an incredible time. And we learned a lot of lessons as well. And so we're looking to continue bringing these back during school breaks. Josie Montoya has a brand new, donated, free to the city piano. Upright piano was donated. This was a really sweet donation. The old piano, we were still using it hard, but it had definitely seen better days. So this was a nice donation. We're also continuing to bring more and more programming and partners in for the community at the Josie Montoya Community and Senior Center as well. At the Hal Jensen Recreation Center, we always have a back-to-school bash. This opens up the facility to invite people, typically new students at Coconino High School, to come by, check us out, see what we have to offer, and of course get some food, which is hugely popular with the teenagers. So they had a good time. Our Tuesday night adult pickup basketball continues to increase, and so we're expanding that program too. Over at the ice rink, if you were there, you might have seen some parking lot drainage work going on with the help of our contractor partner, 108 Excavating. That project is complete. That's just really kind of a first phase. We have more improvements that still need to be made out there, but that project was completed successfully. Our open space team has also been super busy this summer. Arbor Day, you might be thinking, wait, isn't that supposed to be a different time of year? I think it's typically in most communities around April. That doesn't really work to plant trees here in April because it's getting ready to be super dry and hot, right? So we tend to celebrate Arbor Day in the fall or late summer, typically trying to surround it with the monsoon. This year, we hosted an Arbor Day tree walk event. There was also a tree planting in cooperation with a couple of our other divisions at the city that provided grants to a community group to plant orchard trees at Bushmaster Park. So that was some really fun stuff there. We have a new open space educator, Ashley, and as you bring in the new, you tend to have a revolving door, right? So we were sad to see our AmeriCorps ELC, Environmental Literacy Corps intern, Desert, is moving on to new phases in his life as well. But he was an incredible asset for us the last year. Really important, you just saw an email hopefully from me about the Greater Observatory Mesa Trail Plan. We're having our third public review of this trail plan is out, open to the public right now. We have a survey out there that is taking public comment, and a public meeting on September 19th, and then we will come to council later this fall with those results and hopefully your approval of that document. So stay tuned, there's a lot of public interest on this. Finally, with events and marketing, several of us were able to go in October to the Arizona Parks and Recreation Association annual conference and expo. These are pictures of a drone show that we were able to see, and of course, we connected very quickly with that drone show operator and have some, hopefully, some things to share on that in the future. And I want you to save the date for December 7th. This is an important date for City Council and Mayor to join us for our Winter Wonderland event. This is the event with the fire truck and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So save that date for us, and more details will be coming later. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's always great to hear from pros. A lot of good stuff happening. And then we're on to water services for the quarterly report.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Sarah Jablon, Community Engagement Specialist, Water Services. So I'm going to present the quarterly report for April to June 2024. I do want to inform you that our team is currently working to reformat the quarterly report to better reflect our investments for the water rate increase that we recently passed. So this is the last time that we'll see this information displayed in this format. If you could please keep your questions till the end, Shannon Jones will join me at the podium. So thank you, City Council, Water Services staff, the City Council, and our consultant Stantec worked to establish a new rate structure for water, sewer, and reclaimed water rates. City Council adopted a resolution and ordinance to increase rates in a special work session in July. And so in those months leading up to that, there was a major effort to inform the public, outreach, to continue working to get those rates to a point that was a better cost to residents. So thank you for that. We also have been awarded more than 14.5 million grant opportunities for stormwater projects and water resource systems modeling and efficiency projects. We also celebrated Water Awareness Month in April, and our conservation team completed several, I think over a dozen community outreach events. From the period of April to June, projects which were completed or neared completion, Schweitzer Phase 4 and Solier water transmission mains were completed in July. The 2023 Consumer Confidence Report was published in June. 3 roof repair projects were completed at Wildcat Hill Water Reclamation Plant. Projects we are excited to be kicking off include the Lower Spruce Schweitzer Wash Channel Restoration Design. That design was completed in April. Stormwater completed the design for the culvert at the 338.9 mile post. And Water Conservation prepared to launch the Income Qualifying Homeowner Leak Repair and Efficiency Fixture Program. Now we have projects that are currently underway or were underway. The Schultz Creek Drainage Improvements Project at US Highway 180 began in April and is expected to be substantially complete by mid-August. So at this point, the culvert is complete and they're just doing landscaping and paving. The Spruce Wash suite of bond projects is underway with our contractor, Eagle Mountain Construction. Water meter contracts were approved by council in April, thank you. And Water Services began exploring alternatives to address our Wildcat Hill Water Reclamation Plant solids processing capacity, which is nearing capacity. And so we began planning for a sludge dryer pilot project, which kickstarted in July. And if you'll allow me, we have a minute and a half video that we've prepared to demonstrate that to council members and folks who didn't get a chance to view that that sludge dryer in action. So.
In the city of Flagstaff, water reclamation removes over 200,000 gallons of biosolids each day through the wastewater treatment process. These biosolids are stabilized to required safety standards, and excess water is removed for disposal. As of 2024, Flagstaff's water reclamation plants are nearing capacity for solids processing. This is a sludge dryer, and it may be Flagstaff's solution to increasing our solids processing capacity. Here's how the dryer works. After adding a polymer thickening agent and dewatering, wastewater sludge is moved to the dryer. In this model by Shinse USA, the sludge is shaped into a coil and placed on a slow-moving belt. The dryer then dehumidifies the sludge at about 167 degrees Fahrenheit for 1.5 hours. The combined heat and time is enough to remove 90% of the water content and all harmful bacteria and microorganisms. The result is an EPA-certified Class A biosolid that can have practical uses for agriculture, or better yet, be converted into biochar. The method is a more environmentally friendly and cost-effective alternative to the digesters currently in use. It's how we go from this to this, helping to further Flagstaff's goal of a low-carbon future.
Thank you. And we can take questions on that.
The method
at the
is
end.
more
We have
environmentally
just,
friendly.
I think, one or two more slides to go through. So, in addition, tank maintenance and painting commenced in April. And so field operations, distribution, and wastewater collections repaired 4 water main breaks and 1 sewer main. We completed 9 service repairs and replacements, 10 water main tie-ins from water distribution. Noresco began their first phase of water meter change-outs for accuracy testing. Hydrant inspections are ongoing. Some challenges delayed the July 1st deadline to, I believe, end of summer. And new mixers installed at the Rio de Flag water reclamation plant. They also resolved an issue with the largest pump / motor at the Lake Mary water treatment plant. And so, last slide, we had 6 new employees join, or 5 new employees, myself, Michael Goen as the stormwater operator. Dale Harris joined as the new maintenance supervisor for water production. Courtney Hawley came to water services from the city, from community development, and is now part of our engineering team as a plan reviewer. Isaac Aranivaz became the water conservation and GIS aide, and Sean Arendt left the city at the end of June, and he will be missed. And throughout this time, April to June, the Water Commission meetings focused mainly on the water, sewer, and reclaimed water rate study, but also included spring routine flood mitigation, forest service updates, and the 2023 Consumer Confidence Report. Thank you. We'd love to hear questions.
Council? Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment on the dryer. I did a tour out there, and it was very impressive. So, but I do have a question, too. I'll wait for Shannon to come up. So what's the process to decide if we move forward with a dryer or with a digester?
So the current process now is we're concluding the pilot study by developing the technical memo where we conclude that evaluation, but that has been handed over to our engineering consulting firm, Waterworks, for the Rio de Flag solids handling project. So we're anticipating by the end of the calendar year that they can bring that up to the 30% conceptual design, which will allow us to re-engage with our construction manager at risk. So those are kind of a few steps, getting into the 30% conceptual. How do we integrate that into our current solids planning, and getting that to the CMAR for the cost modeling. So again, I think it looks very positive. But again, we want to be methodical working through that. So by the end of the year, we should have the next level of information and decision making.
Thank you, Shannon. And since we are nearing capacity, what's our time availability to make a decision and install whatever we're going to do?
I think that's a great question. So I'll make sure that we frame, so one of our largest concerns has to do with failure of aging infrastructure. So when do we need to have that done? Before anything fails, which is typical for the work that we do, to try to be ahead of that. So again, we're being very diligent working through. As a proactive step, we've also engaged at a staff level at looking at the contingency planning if and when those were to occur, kind of that emergency planning, and seeing what mitigation places we can put, what steps that we can make to minimize that risk. Because we also know when we look at our solids project, there'll be a lot of work in how we bypass the solids while we do any work on that system. And we think there's some synergy there where we can, maybe we can expedite some of some of that equipment early on to help minimize the risk. That could also be leveraged during the construction as we move into the solids handling, specifically the digester rehabilitation at Wildcat. So that's ongoing. Those conversations are occurring every day. We've talked to multiple vendors, waiting for some more information back to see what's most practical and how can that be done. So,
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
of course, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So with biochar in the picture, does that open up any other lines of funding?
Okay.
It's a very general question. I invite you to answer it any way you like to.
Yeah. Well, just by my cautious nature, I'm going to allow the city manager to speak first.
You're way too kind. We can do a little tag team here, Shannon. Thank you for the question, Vice Mayor. You may recall from our visit in Washington last spring, and perhaps that's the context in which you're asking the question, but biochar was on the list, and we have yet to see finalized funding on that, but we are seeing some pretty good preliminary indications that funding could be realized. And this is where Shannon can comment. The amount of funding, of course, would not capitalize an entire project. We have had discussions internally about where we could go with this with some limited funding, and I'll let Shannon take it from there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. Vice Mayor Zons. So as he mentioned, we still have some funding opportunities that we're continuing to vet through. It does create additional funding opportunities, so we are very well engaged with our sustainability team. As they kind of lead that, we lean heavily upon them and their skills and expertise. So while we did have an application for an EPA grant that we were not awarded, that did not even slow us down. We've moved on to what's next and continue to pursue that. And in the meantime, that we're still systematically walking through in anticipation that we will be able to solicit some funding for that and just making sure we're in the best position to execute that when that becomes available.
Well, I like what I see so far, and you have my full enthusiasm as you explore it further.
Thank you. That's an exciting development, and the tour was a little smelly, but really exciting. I'm enthusiastic about the project. I don't see any other questions from council.
Mayor, I might have one follow-up if I may.
Certainly.
Back to Shannon Jones, in going to the question of the biochar, similar to the drying unit that you saw on site, I understand, Shannon, that there may be modular units for, I know we're talking about a new technology that has not seen, widespread implementation, but there may be modular approaches to this whereby the city could start with the process on a limited basis and add on to it over time.
Yes, City Manager, thank you for that. And that is correct. So when we look at converting, going from the biosolids, drying into this physical biochar, it is a scalable process. And so while we keep our focus and our vision on what is the full build out, including the forest bio-waste, that's also very integral in the sustainability aspect. But again, what opportunities can we leverage at the time? So we do know that there are smaller units that could be put in place to begin making biochar more rapidly, and just making sure that we do that in a methodology where that can continue to scale up as we scale up operations, so that again, we're not closing any doors going forward, and just being cognizant of of the ability that if we're able to make a small step forward, that positions us for larger planning, and can that be repivoted and repurposed sometime in the future? And these are a lot of the conversations we're having internally. So we do think there's a lot of opportunities, and we're just being diligent, working through to make sure we vet all of those properly.
Thank you for that, Shannon. Mayor, I'll turn it back to you. I don't have anything further with my report. I want to thank both Pros and Water Services for their updates. Sarah, thank you. We look forward to the changed format, even though it's going to be hard to improve on what you already have, but a very informative update. Thank you. Mayor or Council, is there anything else for me?
I don't see anything else.
Thank you.
All right. So we will move down to item number 10, moving the needle on the active transportation master plan, the carbon neutrality plan, and the 10-year housing plan. Looking forward to this one.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. My name is Dan Folk, Community Development Director, and as you see, we've assembled an amazing team to give you this update tonight. I'm going to get us started off here. So tonight is an update on moving the needle, and we've selected kind of 3 plans to highlight, but by no means, as you'll learn, there's a lot of rules and regulations and everything else involved. But the 3 plans we're going to talk about primarily are the Active Transportation Master Plan, the Carbon Neutrality Plan, and the 10-year Housing Plan. We've got a little outline of what we're going to present tonight for you. So just to summarize these 3 plans that we're going to highlight and get real project specific here in a little bit. The first one is the Active Transportation Master Plan, which Council adopted, I believe it was last year. Some of the goals of that master plan are to create robust pedestrian, bicycle, and transit facilities all across the community, creating connected, comprehensive, and convenient facilities, again, for the entire community, with an ultimate goal of reducing single-occupant vehicle trips. That's one of the main goals of the the Active Transportation Master Plan. 2 other plans we're going to talk about tonight as well are the Carbon Neutrality Plan. The big one goal from that is to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. The team is working to build resiliency into our community systems. And then we're intend to prioritize for the most impacted communities, spreading the costs and benefits equally or equitably across the community. In terms of the 10-year housing plan, the main goals that we've identified are to reduce the affordable housing need in half over the 10-year life of the plan, to try to impact at least 6,000 residents through unit creation or subsidy, and then finally to create or preserve 7,976 housing units by 2031, with 10% of them affordable. That's our target goal. So obviously this creates a lot of challenges, and we have some solutions, right? So the challenges, as summarized here, Nicole put this slide together, is really to necessitate comprehensive shifts. And we're working to create a strong and sustainable foundation that aligns with city goals and city procedures, the codes, the internal operations, while honoring the needs and voices of Flagstaff. And so what you're gonna get next are some of the solutions, and it's a really comprehensive look across really the organization and projects that are happening to implement these 3 plans. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Nicole. I believe she's next.
Thanks, Dan. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Nicole Antonopoulos, Sustainability Director. And as you can see, we have a lot of folks here to share this story with you this evening. And as a reminder, we came to the council at the end of last year with this update and have promised to continue to provide these updates to the council because there's a lot of moving parts with all of these commitments that we have made to the community. And our approach has been comprehensive. We know that we need to analyze the situation to understand what is needed, and to improve, we need to remove barriers while creating opportunities. And of course, we need to act on all of that while we're continuously collecting feedback. Conditions change, and conditions change rapidly, and that means that we have to stay in this space of constantly readdressing our needs as a community. So that is our approach. And really, we shared this at the last presentation, but we believe it's incredibly important to understand how these three plans intersect with several city processes, procedures, plans, and codes. What you have on the slide to the right is just a hint of touching the surface on how the the carbon neutrality plan, the active transportation master plan, and the 10-year housing plan intersect with the city budget, the regional plan, our building and fire code, equally our procurement code, our community wildfire protection plan, and so forth. So we will probably be sharing a slide like this every time we come back to provide an update, but we think it's really important to understand that to do this work, we cannot operate in a vacuum. So as we move forward, I want to just emphasize, for the sake of all of the team's sanity, that this is really just a snapshot of the work that needs to be done over the next 12 months. So this is a high-level review of our planned efforts. And we felt it is important to constantly state that these intersections with city engineering and climate action are equally as important as the intersections of community development and capital engineering and so forth. These are all interconnected. They all feed off of each other and have influence on every division within the organization. So with that, let's jump into some great information. I'm going to hand the slide off to Paul Mood, our city engineer.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Council members, Paul Mood, city engineer. Want to give a brief update on our engineering standard update. We started off last year with the low-hanging fruit, the engineering standards that related to the active transportation plan. We got those updated in the spring of 2024. We're now working on our second round of engineering standard updates that relate to the active transportation plan. In your packet, you have rounds 1, 2, and 3. If you had a chance to look at those, what we're working on. Round 2 is some more in-depth codes we're looking at. City staff is working right now to redline those codes. And then we're going to start our public outreach process. We'll be meeting with all the various committees, commissions, coming to council, going to public meetings, bringing all that information back to council again for a more in-depth review, and then hopefully bring back the updated codes in the summer of 2025 for approval. Then, once we get that done, we'll start working on round 3. Some capital projects that we're working on that relate to the active transportation plan. The Beulah and University project that has separated bike lanes and the underpass under Milton. You've probably been seeing that underpass going in lately. You're going to get an update on October 8th on that project, so that'll be a good update. The Lone Tree Overpass, you recently approved, I think it was about $25 million construction contract. That's for the portion south of the overpass. So just north of Butler down to O'Leary. So that is going to have some foots trail components to it, a protected intersection as well as at Butler and Lone Tree. Schweitzer Canyon Foots, we have a new foots trail that we're getting ready to bid out. That is about a mile of foots trail from Turquoise to Terrace. It's up behind the Fry's grocery store in that area, so that'll be a good addition. Cedar Forth Lockett Roundabout, that's a highway safety improvement grant that we're working with ADOT on. ADOT is the administrator of that project. They currently have it out for bid. Bids are due November 1st, and then you should see construction start up in the spring, but we won't be doing that hard closure at Cedar Fourth Lockett until school's out in the summer, and hopefully get that construction wrapped up in the summer. We have the downtown mile. That project has 2 bike ped underpasses under the railroad at Florence, Walnut. We'll connect Florence and Walnut under the railroad, and then where the Rio de Flag crosses the railroad as well. Currently at 60% design. Don't have the number on top of my head, but that's like $30+ million in grants. So we're really working on grants hard. Butler and 4th Street improvements, separated bike lanes again. We're trying to do a Foots underpass at 4th Street and Butler. And then we're working with Mountain Line on upgrading their existing transit stops and putting in new transit stops for them. We did go out for a raise grant, $19 million raise grant. We were unsuccessful, but the project did score high enough that we're automatically rolled into their next round of raise grant, and those applications are due at the end of January of next year. Butler Avenue Complete Streets. This is a great project of how the process really works. 2 years ago, council, the Downtown Mile Project got $3 million from the AZ Smart Fund. Council asked, could we put that towards protected intersections on Butler? We said yes. Then we had a Safe Streets for All grant opportunity come up, and we kind of expanded the scope of the project to be the complete street conversion with the 10 to 11 foot sidewalks, bike lanes on each side, getting rid of that pilot separated bike lane projects, plus the protected intersections at 3 intersections, Beaver, San Francisco, and Sawmill. We were successful in getting a $9.6 million Safe Streets for All grant. Then we just recently worked with MetroPlan to get our $2.4 million match from the city covered by the AZ Smart Fund. So that project right now is 100% funded from AZ Smart Fund and a grant. And we're at 15% design. We had to hold off. The grant is for design and construction, so we're gonna have to go out and procure a design firm to finish that project off per the grant. We're working on the John Wesley Powell extension. That will have a bunch of foots trail components, bike lanes, things like that, crossings. And you're gonna get an update on that project on October 8th as well. Then we recently partnered with MetroPlan again and went after a Safe Streets for All planning grant. So got about $2.5 million grant, $2 million from the grant, $5 million from our funds that were already in our CIP. To do our Streets Master Plan and Vision Zero Plan. So MetroPlan is going to help with staffing and doing that project with us. But that's another great way we're partnering with MetroPlan and going after these grants. And then we just said various other grants. We're always going after grants. We've already been awarded the First Mile, Last Mile grant. Those plans are at about 60% design. That's a $7.2 million grant. 5.4 million is federal funding and 1.8 local match, and that's going to do bike and pedestrian improvements and connectivity to transit. So that's another really great grant. And then we also have a Safe Routes to School grant that we're working on with MetroPlan to identify and upgrade some areas around schools, so help with safety there. Again, I talked about the Butler 4th Street, the raise grant. We're going to be resubmitting that. Automatically gets resubmitted, but I think we can augment it. We had our debriefing with the federal government, so we know what areas we were a little bit low on, but we can hopefully bolster that. And then we're going after another SS4A bike ped concept planning grant and an ATIP grant. And that ATIP will, if successful, we're going after $500,000 to take 3 priority projects in our active transportation plan, get those to concept level, so then we can go after additional grants. So, and then last year in the budget, we asked for another transportation planner. We thank council for approving that in the budget, and that person has been hired, and they're working on some of these projects. And then I'm going to turn it over to building safety.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. So I'm Amy Tressler, the building official here with the city. And today I want to present the timeline for the upcoming building code adoption process. So first off, we are looking at adopting the 2024 suite of international codes that has recently been released. And we are beginning the review of the code changes from the 2018 suite of codes that we currently have adopted. This process involves examining 12 different codes to identify significant changes, and we anticipate completing this review by early spring of 2025. Once the review is complete, we will draft code amendments and consult with the Code Review Committee, which also doubles as our Building Safety Board of Appeals. We plan to initiate public outreach in the summer of 2025. In the fall of 25, we will incorporate feedback from the public, revise the amendments accordingly, and meet with the Code Review Committee for final feedback and discussion. Building Safety will then present the proposed code changes at a council work session in the fall of 2025, with the goal of seeking council approval for the adoption of the revised building codes in the winter of 2025. And that's all that I've got. Next is housing. City manager says I have to present in Spanish. It's like he's been stalking me on Duolingo. Not going to do that. My presentation today is short and sweet, Council, because we were in front of you on June 25th with the implementation plan regarding the 10-year housing plan. And 2 weeks from tonight, we're back in front of you with the 18-month report on the 10-year plan. So we have our we're on a slightly different schedule. I'm hoping we can coordinate as we move forward with this group so that we're lining up a little bit more. So that's the first line you see. The other items here are reflective of things that were presented on June 25th that are within our work program for the coming year, directly relative to the 10-year plan. This is a sample. I don't expect you to recall everything we talked about in June, nor could I probably do it off the top of my head. So this is a sample of the things that were presented. I do want to call your attention to the implementation of the rental incentive program. Of course, we had the first application round last spring, and we are preparing that notice of funding availability to go back out this fall with the remaining funds left in that category. That's why you say done, but also second round, because we are done with the creation piece and re-implementing those pieces. It is such a privilege to be able to work with such a strong team, and the cross-pollination between all of the efforts and all of the plans has been very helpful, I believe, to all of us, especially those in housing. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with a full report on the 10-year plan progress. Next is planning. Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Michelle McNulty, the Planning Director. So last time that we were here to give a moving the needle update, we were in the process of completing a few text code amendments, and those have been done. So updating planned residential uses in the manufactured home zone lots, meeting facilities, open space designation, and then allowing residential in the public facility zone. We're currently doing a suite of text amendments that are in relation to some recent state legislature that has been released. And they were definitely great bills in that they were kind of focused on the areas that we were already focused on, kind of streamlining anyway, one being the subdivision process. So you will be seeing in the near future, very near future actually, a text amendment for that. Essentially, we will be getting rid of the concept plat. We'll be proposing to get rid of the concept plat and then just doing preliminary plat and final plat. That's actually very typical in a lot of communities, and we won't be losing anything other than streamlining the process to get subdivisions to you to approve faster. Well, I should say, maybe not to you. So we're also, the state legislature allows for us to approve plats administratively. So we will be making a recommendation that we can approve plats administratively unless they are using planned residential development standards or asking for any variance from code. But if they're just doing straight what is allowed by code in their subdivision, we will be proposing that we approve those administratively. You'll also be seeing a zoning map amendment and as it relates to timeframes. So the state is requiring that cities commit to specific timeframes to identify when a zoning map amendment has been complete, the application has been complete, and then a timeline for approving it. I am proud to say that our already published deadlines for reviewing the zoning map amendments is actually shorter than what the state's mandating, so we're pretty sure we won't have too much of a hassle meeting those deadlines. Another one is the ADUs, or accessory dwelling units. State legislature is requiring that we now allow, so currently we only allow one ADU to one single family development. It will actually require that we allow up to two, one detached and one attached. So attached is kind of part of the dwelling, so it looks like a single family. And then the detached is usually in the backyard. It looks like a separate structure. It will also allow for parcels that are an acre or greater, a third dwelling unit, as long as it's dedicated for affordable housing. It's also going to require that we eliminate the required parking and some of the compatibility standards and other standards that we put to ADUs that are more restrictive than the standards on a single family dwelling. Tiffany will be here in no time to give you more details, so I'm going to keep it high level and not completely spoil everything she's going to present. And then we have a miscellaneous cleanup, and that is currently the only residence that doesn't have to go through concept review is single family. We're going to propose a change to code that would allow duplexes to also skip going to concept review and go straight to building. Neither single family or duplexes trigger off-site improvements, and neither also have design standards. So we're really not getting any additional value added by having it come to concept, so we'd like to speed up that process. We'll also just be kind of doing some house cleaning, clarifying the regulations for accessory structures, and clarifying regulations for accessory uses, and returning some provisions for outdoor storage areas, aligning home occupations size allowances to match what building code allows, and then also just clarifying a section of code regarding architectural standards for basements, basement garages, stem walls, crawl spaces, and podium parking, that it's not applied to single-family dwellings. Some other upcoming amendments, you'll see we gave a work session on high occupancy housing, so you'll be seeing more on that in the upcoming months, as well as an updated sign code. And then we continue to work on improving the IDS, or the interdivision staff process. And then I think you are all aware, we are in the midst of finalizing the Regional Plan 2024 update draft. The steering committee will be taking a look at that on September 30th and hopefully endorsing that to get that out for the 60-day public comment. So still a lot of time to review that, but the steering committee has done an incredible job getting us to this point. We've completed the land availability suitability analysis and the development code diagnostic. We are now working on the concept update, so looking at the concept assessment as it relates to transit as well, and just the code concept, so you'll be getting an update on that in the next couple of months. And then we'll move on to the final code recommendations. I'm going to turn it over to sustainability.
Thank you, Michelle. Good afternoon, Council. Jenny Neiman, Climate Action Section Director. I am going to review some of the projects we're working on. I want to clarify that my lovely colleagues all talked about climate action. This is all climate action. It all works towards our long-term goals. I will be talking about projects that the Climate Action Section is specifically leading. First, I'm really thrilled that we are preparing our ADU incentive project. It took us a little while to get the capacity to get there, but this project will, we hope, increase the use of ADUs across Flagstaff, as well as increase the use of model plans for ADUs. And so a lot of cities across the country have done this, and this is one way for us to say, you don't have to get a custom plans built if you want to build a home in your backyard, right? How can we make that process easier? So we've been working with our friends in community development, in both housing as well as building safety and planning to start that project. And we will hear an update on that in October from our lead, Genevieve, who will have a lot more details. A large internal team has been working for months on the Sustainable Procurement Code, and you'll hear more from that team this winter. The goal of that is to really make sure that we are including sustainability in our purchasing decisions as we think about just how to best support our organization. Our Resilience Hub project has launched. I am just thrilled that we have finally gotten this on the ground. This is an EPA grant that we got for through the Government to Government program. It's a $1 million grant. And what it does is really support our community in building resilience. Resilience is one of those things that is best done from the ground up, which is why this grant supports community-driven resilience hubs at 3 different locations. So that's the Murdoch Center, the Market of Dreams in Sunnyside, as well as the CATS bus through the CATS program. And we have started to finally get funding out into the community starting last month on this project. So we're really thrilled on that, and you'll start to see news from those 3 project locations as they get up and running. We are, lost where I was. As council's heard, we will start working on a carbon neutrality plan revision in 2025. This revision will be to better incorporate resilience as well as equity, and just a chance to talk to the community again about the carbon neutrality plan. We want this to remain a living document. And then starting in really the spring of 2025, we're excited to get a little bit more into the community in terms of supporting actions, whether those are home retrofits or transportation. We are working to submit next week a large grant to the EPA that will subsidize retrofits all across northern Arizona. This is a multi-partner grant, and it will bring home retrofits to Flagstaff, but also to Williams and Winslow, as well as the Navajo and Hopi reservations. And a huge part of this is workforce development. So making sure that we have the contractors that we're able to do the work, not only work from these projects, but also just work in town that folks are hungry for already. Contractors are incredibly busy with energy efficiency and HVAC work in town. And so we're just trying to work more closely with CCC as part of that. In terms of mobility hubs, we are working to try to bring more mobility options to our residents. We received some funding from council to start a pilot that would try to bring e-bikes to more folks. And so we're trying to find some creative ways to make that happen, and we hope to launch those really this summer. And then finally, EV charging infrastructure. A big shout out to Danae Pressler and our grants and contracts team. We submitted a grant today to the Department of Transportation to bring around 50 charging stations to both Flagstaff and Sedona. What we're really looking at here is how do we better support our residents where it's hard to charge your vehicles? Maybe you don't own your home, maybe you live in an apartment building, and if that's the case, it can be hard to get set up for EV charging. And so what we want to do is bring charging into our community. We have been working with our parks friends, and they enthusiastically supported this in really bringing EV charging to parks. That isn't necessarily because you necessarily always need to charge your car at parks, but our parks are embedded in our neighborhoods and in our community. And so this is a really great way to bring EV charging. We have a lot of EV charging in hotels, maybe for some visitors, but this is really to bring EV charging to our community members. And now I'm going to hand it back to Nicole to finish this up.
Thank you, Jenny, and everyone who presented. And we're open for questions if the council would like any additional information or clarification.
Thank you all. Council, do we have any questions? Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Mayor. Nicole, it's so good to see a timeline with the ADUs. You and I sat down before I even ran for election.
Yes.
And talked about the need on various levels. So I'm really happy to see that, it's just one, piece of the puzzle, but we have to approach it like that and not wait for the big silver bullets. So I'm happy to see that and look forward to seeing how we roll out a set of standard plans and start encouraging. I think it'd be a great asset to not only our housing issue, but for fixed income or just people that need to supplement their income to build an ADU and have that as part of their ongoing income base. So I'm really excited to hear that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Hi again. So I have some questions and some comments. I think maybe it was Jenny, I sent you a link about, there you are, I was looking in the back. I sent you a link for a TED Talk by a Dr. Ayanna Johnson. Did you get that?
I did.
Okay. If all of us remember being in college, we did those Venn diagrams and they drove me crazy. But she explains it in a way that is really clear and it's really easy. So I took the liberty of going out there and contacting her agent to see if she would be available to come to Flagstaff. Now, I'm not sure how I'm going to figure this out, but first of all, just getting, to see if she's available. The interesting thing about her, and I would encourage you to go out, anyone here, to take a look at the TED Talk. It's about 12 minutes. It's really short. And it talks about finding the joy in climate action. And the way she explains it is that start people wherever they are. And so she takes them through an exercise right in the TED Talk, and they have a piece of paper, and she's telling them about the Venn diagram, and they're drawing their own Venn diagram that teaches them or that helps them to look at where they are and how they contribute. So if you can imagine, if we could get 50,000 people all on the same page with something, how much further could we be moving? Exactly. Okay, and so that's my whole idea, people would just kind of be open to thinking a little differently about that. And when I figure out how to bring her here, I'll let you know. But so that's one thing. The other thing that the question that I wanted to ask somewhere here is that when we talk about climate action, are we really helping people to understand what we're talking about? Because all disciplines have they have their own language. Higher ed, we have our own jargon. Literature has their own jargon. Everybody has their own jargon. But what we're doing is we're not talking to people where they are. And so I'm wondering, have we thought about how we might do that? Or whether that could be at the resilience hubs as, small programs, because you have a small group of people. So have we thought about that? And have we thought about maybe asking people who have that expertise in terms of breaking down large projects like that to maybe do a program? I don't know who those people are because I haven't thought about it I've thought about it, but I haven't come up with any ideas. But people, maybe literacy volunteers that can, take that language and make it simple. And in no way am I saying that our population is not intelligent. But, I have a master's degree, and when I read climate stuff, I have to go back and look up definitions all the time. So I think it would be helpful for us to do that. But have we thought about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Harris. So if you look at our social media, we actually don't talk about climate action a lot, right? We talk about food, right? We talk about making your house more comfortable. We talk about saving money. We can definitely do a better job at that. In here, we talk a little bit more about climate action, but when we're talking to the community, I prefer not to use the word climate at all, because it's not always the most compelling thing, right? And so we do try to meet folks where they are. I was thinking about the speaker in the TED Talk, and you know, the resilience hubs, right, are community driven for that reason, right? The message isn't always best coming from us, right? It's best coming from our community members. So 100%, we've had a climate ambassador program in the past where we really try to help people talk about this stuff. And again, it's really not talking about climate, right? It's talking about people's needs and how do we help them meet their needs in a way that is good for them for whatever reason they need to. And most of the time, it's also good for climate. But again, that's kind of the backstory there. But 100%, and we can definitely get better at it.
And I think that's it for right now.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember House?
Thank you. I just had a quick question on I'm trying to remember what it was, the EV charging plan. So you mentioned that you were looking at parks in particular because of how they're embedded in communities, but we also know that for Flagstaff, there are some of the historically underrepresented communities that have limited park access. So do you have plans for implementing a program like this in those communities specifically?
Yes, absolutely. And this grant is, so we were a little bit constrained because we needed to do it on city property, right? So you do have that. And we tried really hard. I think 93% of the stations, and we just submitted it today, so I'm both fresh and fuzzy, but 93% of the EV charging stations were either in a disadvantaged community, which is the Department of Transportation's term, or a rural area. And all of Sedona's charging is in a rural area, but the majority of stations are here. We are applying for example, EV charging at Cogdale Recreation Center. So that is an area that isn't necessarily served by a park, but is served by the recreation center. So Councilmember House, it's a really good question. It's something we're trying to think hard about because even if we, if we get this grant, we'll just say we are, we still have a long way to go because of the lack of parks in those areas. So we are thinking really hard about that. It will take public-private partnerships probably, right? Working in areas that have multifamily housing, right? Some cities have also figured out how to do EV charging just at a regular old parking space with a telephone pole, right? And so that is an option. So we are definitely thinking about that. It's a little bit about trying to fit our needs into the box of that specific grant, but I really appreciate, because to your point, because of historic inequities, are we furthering it by focusing on parks? So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember McCarthy?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I was encouraged to hear the idea about standardized building plans for ADUs. Having lived in Tucson, Phoenix, and Flagstaff, the big difference I notice here in Flagstaff is that essentially every house is got its own plans. Where down in Phoenix or Tucson, essentially everything, they'll build 100 houses with the exact same plans. That's more efficient for the builders. It's more efficient architecturally. So I just think that's a great idea, and we should encourage things in them like added insulation. I mean, you've probably heard me talk before about the value of better insulation. You don't need air conditioning if you have good insulation. And just as a footnote, when I was in engineering college, I got an A in heat transfer. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Sweet?
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation and meeting with me the other day and answering some questions I had. I just have a couple of comments. One, we are talking a lot about the ADUs, and I will say, and I shared this with you, that I do have one at my house, and it really did change my life as well as my renters that need a place, and it's affordable, and it's great for one person, and that's hard to find here in Flagstaff. So I'm very excited to see that we're working on getting those plans and streamlining the process on that. The e-bikes, I'm curious and excited to see how we're gonna get those into the community. Again, that is something that, and I talk a lot about myself and my e-bike. Years ago, it got me started into my biking, and now I do it for other purposes, but I still love my e-bike. But it did get me going on other bikes, and I hope that we can do that for other members of our community. And the resilience hubs, when they do get going, I would love to either have a formal tour or I could go on my own, but I think it would be great for council to go and see in person what those are offering our community. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all. I really appreciate this comprehensive overview. You guys are doing a lot. You guys are doing a lot right. I want to nitpick just a little bit because it's something that's been bugging me for a decade now. When we're talking about some of these projects, I would like you to think strongly about how to include sidewalks on Zuni as something that is a wrong that needs to be righted. Those sidewalks should have been put in several years ago when Zuni was torn up. They weren't, and I pass through that neighborhood all the time. That neighborhood really needs that amenity. It's a basic need for them, and it should be provided. I don't have a lot of comments at this time about some of the other stuff. I appreciate and hope that we can really engage the public through this. Obviously, you guys are doing your outreach, but the more that people understand how comprehensive this is and how it all plays together, and it's not just, disconnected spot projects, I really think that's going to go a long way in just keeping everybody on the same page and enthusiastic about what's happening here. A lot of Flagstaff is under construction right now. That's going to continue to be the case, and if we all share this momentum and this shared vision of what we're moving towards, I think we'll all be able to just be patient as traffic chokes up in various places on an ongoing basis for the next several years. That's all.
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the ADUs and homeowner associations. Has anybody talked to any of the homeowners associations? I know there's somebody's adding onto their house in Ponderosa Trails, and I'm assuming that they got all the permissions and everything, but are the homeowners associations kind of on board with this and do the, I mean, the people who live in those neighborhoods can change their CCNRs by voting, but that takes a whole bunch of work, that people might not be willing to do, but they can be kind of annoying at sometimes homeowners associations. I'm just being honest, so, well, they can be. So have we talked to them about what we're trying to do and how they can be helpful?
So I don't know if when you're asking that, it's in relation to the plan sets that we're going to have kind of on file or the code changes, but I suspect it's kind of all encompassing in everything that we're trying to do for ADUs. We have not at this point, I guess first I'd like to start off with the changes that we're making to the ADU zoning code are actually mandated by the state. So we've got to implement those, and we have to implement them by a certain date. I think when you're talking about is maybe working with them so that they reduce some of those restrictions so that they aren't so heavily regulated. We've not had those direct conversations. I wouldn't rule it out. I'd like to talk to staff about how we might do that. I mean, we invite all of the community to come and participate, and some probably are in homeowners associations or regulated by CCNRs, but your point is well taken. Yeah.
And so, being as direct as I can be, a lot of times the people who sit on those boards, some of them are long-term residents, and some of them are not. Take that however you want to take it.
Noted.
And they don't necessarily want certain things going up in their neighborhoods. So that may be a conversation that might be a little bit hard to have. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
And just being totally honest that people are probably thinking about the same thing, but are not going to say it, so.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Thank you.
And if I may add, Councilmember Harris, you'll be hearing a lot more detail about the ADU incentive program from Genevieve Pear3 in the coming months.
All right, thank you, staff. I love it when we get these presentations that are joint presentations, and just hearing how you all are working together. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't see any additional questions from council. So I will move down to open call to the public.
Mayor, we do have one commenter, that is Nadine Hart.
All right, thank you.
We're gonna let staff clear out here just a moment. It might take a moment.
Hello, council members. I am speaking on behalf of Section 8 residents and as a member on the Flagstaff Housing Authority Board. We have not met consistently, so we as board members and as a Section 8 voucher member cannot get certain things on the agenda. Some pressing issues that have occurred are our inspections. We have the option to have them every 2 years, but they're choosing to do it annually. This creates such a stress to landlords. A lot of these homes are older, and it's very difficult to find the maintenance. My house alone was inspected twice within a year. My landlord was not going to renew my lease because it passed the first time, but we found faults. The person who showed up was not prepared, and it was the most petty things that you can imagine. When I brought this up to the Housing Authority, I was told, Nadine, you need to talk to HUD. I just found out that's their job, and they can do that once a year. So when a house fails over sink stoppers, they can advocate for us. Not one person received any information. What is bothering you? My landlord received nothing. What can we do to make life easier for you? That is wrong. To not have that before the board is wrong. To lose your housing and not celebrate Christmas or plant flowers because you have to work with the housing authority and you have a house, that's wrong. There is no advocating for residents. There is no awareness to the Section 8 program. When I brought this up with Sarah, she said, Nadine, we don't have the budget, and that's a conflict of interest. If you want a video like the one we saw earlier, you figure it out. That is not okay. That we are not bringing awareness of this program to potential landlords in our community. When I pushed further, apparently there's a list of landlords that work with us. I have not heard that. How many times have I come before city council saying I'm going to be homeless? I have 100 rejections. I don't believe it. And what I also found out from others, former housing authority employees joke around the water cooler about who they're going to kick out today. Someone going to my house or someone's house around Christmas to find faults with sink stoppers, that's not funny. But that is occurring. And again, we cannot bring this up to the board because we have no meetings. So I'm bringing it up to you now at this moment. And keep in mind, my landlord, when this happened, was not going to renew. How many other landlords in our small community have already thrown their hands up in the air? It's wrong. We have the money and we have a need. Why don't we continue to house families? So I hope you guys can do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy, is that the only
Yes,
member
Mayor.
of the public?
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to item number 12, informational items from mayor, council, and city manager, future agenda item requests. Let's start with Councilmember House.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see, yesterday I had the fun opportunity to participate in Operation Ready along with Councilmember Harris, and I know Councilmembers Matthews and Sweet were there to observe as well as several other members of the city team. I want to issue some high praise to all the teams that were involved in that and the community members who volunteered to make the event successful. They needed a minimum of 40 volunteers to be able to have the event, and they had 41 volunteers from the community. So that was just, it was a lot of fun, and it was a really great opportunity. I also had the opportunity yesterday to join in a meeting that covered a lot of housing topics. I will allow the mayor to speak more to that if she would like to, but also want to extend appreciation for the invitation and the joy that it was to join the mayor and vice mayor in that meeting. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day and National American Indian and Alaska Native Hope for Life Day, which is a suicide prevention awareness day. I wanted to share with the community that the official colors of Suicide Prevention Month are purple and teal. I think when I texted people earlier, I kept saying turquoise. Sorry about that. I get the colors confused. But the two colors are chosen in support and solidarity with all people who are impacted by suicide. And so just encouraging people to wear those colors, if not today, then throughout the month, in recognition of the importance of the month. Tomorrow is the 23rd anniversary of September 11th, which will be recognized and memorialized in various ceremonies across Flagstaff, the state, and the nation. I don't want to say looking forward to participating in those events, but certainly humbled and honored to be able to be part of that tomorrow, and joining the community in remembering that event that certainly shaped and shook many of us in different ways. That's all for me tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sweet.
Thank you. I've got a few things. Last week, we did have the Mobile Haven neighborhood meeting, and I just wanted to thank staff and our police that came out and participated. It was a great meeting of the minds, and a lot got accomplished. Saturday, I attended the 96th birthday party for the Museum of Northern Arizona, and I learned a bit of history of the museum, and it was very cool to learn. Sunday, I attended the Coconino Center for the Arts 40th anniversary, and it was a wonderful day of music, dance, poetry, and so much more on that. Tomorrow, I will be attending the 9/11 Memorial at City Hall, 7 a.m. out at the flagpole. And don't forget that this weekend is Pickin' in the Pines. I've been attending for 18 years, and it's a great festival. I hope to see you all there. Thanks.
Councilmember McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember House, I have on my purple shirt, T-shirt anyway. As far as the 9/11 event, I just mentioned quickly that when I was in New York City, I went to the 9/11 memorial, and I didn't really look forward to it, but once I got there, I found it extremely moving. So if you get a chance, please go to it. As far as Picking in the Pines, I'll be a backstage manager again this year. I've gone every year since its inception. Always look forward to it. Hopefully we have a small packet to review over the weekend. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Not too much to report. I did just want to add my gratitude to be able to participate in the meeting yesterday with White House advisor Tom Perez. I do hope, Madam Mayor, that you'll be able to speak a little bit more to that, but I did want to brag on you just a little bit. I'm very impressed and grateful for the relationships that you've been building nationally and bringing, leveraging those resources to come here. Tom Perez was a senior advisor to the president. He was the director of the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. He's been the Secretary of Labor in the past. He was an assistant attorney general. He's run for governor. He's been a local council person. I think he must be an ENTP like I am. That's just guessing, though. It was really delightful to spend such an intimate time with him. The round table that the mayor and he set up to discuss housing and to discuss the administration's accomplishments with ARPA and the IRA was just really incredible thing to be a part of. And Mayor, please do go into more detail about that, but I wanted to make sure it was impressed upon how highfalutin, highfalutin that entire interaction was. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
I too attended the Ready Flag event and so happy to have been able to participate in that. The event went well. The person who was running the event, coordinating it, he just could not say enough things, great things about Flagstaff and how supportive we were, and he was from Florida, and he had problems getting enough people, but that wasn't the case in Flagstaff, and so it made me feel really proud to be a citizen of this community. The highlight was the C-36 or whatever that big plane was that was out at the airport, so that was my highlight, one of my highlights. I will also be attending the event tomorrow morning. And yes, I can remember exactly where I was and where I was standing when that all happened. And let's see, and I was at Creative Flagstaff the Saturday evening and Sunday events, and it was really nice. And even with all the rain and stormy stuff, they still had a great time. So it's a good event.
Thank you. Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Mayor. I too was a observer at Ready Flagstaff. I wasn't one of the actors in there as Councilmember House and Harris were. Very impressive. Great to see the coordination, all the different agencies coming together. I heard several times, though, as impressive as it was, that it brought a heightened awareness that we don't have all the resources that we really need for such a big event if that was to ever happen. So, we're going to be talking about Fire Station 7 soon, because I thought it was interesting that the hospital had an influx of people, and so there was talk about our victims going over there, but we don't get to pick and choose when there's a disaster. And that'll be something I hope we see in the future, that we make sure we are readily prepared for the unthinkable. I will be at the 6:55 or 7 o'clock memorial here at City Hall at the flagpole, and then again at, I think it's 8:30 at Heritage Square. Definitely, I think we all agree that this is a event that we should never forget or put on the back burner. So I am honored to be attending those, and went to the NAU breakfast yesterday. Always interesting to learn about AI this time. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the exercise yesterday out at the airport was really phenomenal to watch, and to see all of those agencies coordinating a response together was really impressive. So thanks to our victims, Councilmember House and Councilmember Harris, for participating in that. Okay, I have a couple of things. First is I returned on Saturday evening from the Mayor's Institute on City Design. And I talked about this a little bit last week, but this is a partnership between the National Endowment for the Arts and the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And there were 4 mayors, Gresham, Oregon, Oklahoma City, Albuquerque, and myself, and then 2 tribal chairmen. And we each brought a project from our communities to have these experts in design, these architects, various people, funders, talk about the projects. And the project that I brought was the proposed Indigenous Community Cultural Center, and in my opinion was the most exciting project of all of the projects to be discussed. And so the that team from the Mayor's Institute for Community Design will be having some follow-up meetings with me and with members of the Indigenous Circle of Flagstaff and city staff to kind of follow up on what we talked about and make sure that the information that we talked about is adequately relayed to everyone, because even though I took pages and pages of notes, I don't think I could adequately describe everything that we talked about. Yesterday, I was so happy to welcome Director Tom Perez as Councilmember House and Vice Mayor mentioned to Flagstaff. He and his staff were interested in hearing how Flagstaff spent ARPA dollars and IRA dollars. And I had, in working with his staff ahead of time, we decided on focusing on housing. So I invited Flagstaff Shelter Services and Housing Solutions, Catholic Charities, Sarah Dar, our housing director, and Habitat for Humanity. We took a tour of JoJo's Place, which is the hotel that Housing Solutions of Northern Arizona purchased and renovated. And then we met at the Aquaplex for a roundtable talking with all of these leaders from the various organizations. And Sarah Dar had an outstanding handout to give that detailed all of the projects that received ARPA funding that were housing related. And I very much appreciated that. It was just it was a great conversation, and any chance we get to brag on our local housing partners is, I'm always going to take that opportunity. And the director was really blown away by how much all of the organizations coordinate with each other. He said he doesn't see that in a lot of communities, and just that they're each working to fill a gap and not duplicate services. So he was impressed with that. I have a couple of things that I would like to talk about at a future meeting. And one is our electrification policy regarding our fleet, and just talking about how we can maybe organize that in a different way, and maybe with a little bit more focus on right sizing of vehicles for the job. And also at this Mayor's Institute on City Design, the transportation planner for the city of Boston was there. And we talked about speed humps in neighborhoods and about how they work with snow and snow equipment. And she had lots of good information. So I would like to talk about speed humps in Flagstaff neighborhoods and how that might work out. We have so many neighborhoods contacting us for speed reduction, and I don't want to interfere with our equipment at all or slow down snow removal at all. But she had, like I said, some great information about how snow plows and speed humps can can work together. So I would like to talk about that. And city manager indicated that he doesn't have anything to add. So unless anyone has something that they just thought of that they wanted to add, I am going to adjourn the meeting.
Mayor, I just want to say, I just looked up the word highfalutin. That is definitely not the word I was going for. I was struggling with that, but I think the right adjective would be distinguished. Anyway, just to amend the record.
I like highfalutin too, so.
And Mayor, if I may, the executive session will begin at 5:20. You mentioned a 10-minute break in the chat, so, okay, thank you.
All right, 5:20, and we're adjourned from this meeting. Thank you.